In this video I'm back in my garden in Colchester, and what I'm actually doing is doing some garden macro photography, but I'm not doing things like butterflies, insects, which are normal sort of things that I do for macro photography. What I'm actually photographing here is actually a slowworm. So I don't get slowworms in this garden, but fortunately my sister-in-law does, and she lives in Malden, which is about 10 miles away from here, and she lives on an estate in the middle of the town, and for some reason or other she gets slowworms there. I don't get them here, but we had a phone call the other night. Apparently the cat had brought one in and it wasn't injured or harmed or anything like that, so she rang us up and said what to do. So you can't put it back in the garden, cat will only go and find it again. So I said, don't worry, I'll come over and collect it. We have a nature reserve about 10 minutes walk away from where I live. So what I'll do is I'll release it over there. There's long grass, bramble bushes, vegetation, ideal habitat for it really. So what I'll do is I went over there, collected it. Before I release it this evening, what I'm actually going to do is photograph it, but I'm going to photograph it in my garden. And I'll show you how I went about that. There's two ways that I can actually photograph it. One is in a set that I can actually make up, and the other way is to actually just photograph it on the grass. And what I'll be using when I photograph it is the OM1 and the 90mm macro lens, and that will be an ideal lens for photographing the slowworm. I can get the whole thing in there. I can also go in for a very close headshots. So I'll show you how I've gone about it, and hopefully you'll enjoy the video. So when I went over to collect the slowworm from my sister-in-law's, I kept it in a plastic container. It's got holes drilled in the top so it can get air to it, and it's, for the few hours that it's going to be there, it's quite okay. There's a few things you need to know about slowworms. Firstly, a lot of people, if they see them, they think they're actually a small snake. They aren't. They're actually the UK's only legless lizard. They're perfectly harmless. You'll often find them in amongst vegetation, long grass, bushes, that sort of thing. And when you handle a slowworm, the one thing you must remember to do is not pick it up by its tail. You have to pick it up either short, a little bit behind the head, and handle it there. If you pick it up by its tail, slowworms have a defense mechanism where they can actually shed their tail. So if a magpie or jackdaw or something like that, or a predator comes to get them and catch them, if they grab them by the tail, the slowworm can actually shed its tail and escape. So when you pick a slowworm up, just pick it up very gently behind its head, okay, and just put it where you want to photograph it. Now what I'm actually there's two ways I'm going to try and photograph it today. One is on the lawn. Now if you've got a really nicely manicured lawn with no weeds or anything like that, the pictures are going to look a little bit false. Our lawn is not the best lawn you're going to find, fortunately for me, from a photography point of view. There's quite a lot of weeds around. There's areas we haven't cut it for a few days, fortunately, so there's patches of it where you've got longer grass and weed and that sort of thing, so it actually looks quite natural. So if I can put it in a spot like that, and what I'll be actually doing, I'll lie down on the ground and hand hold the camera, 90mm macro lens, when I'm photographing it. The other way to do it, if you've got a particularly unnatural looking lawn, a manicured, sort of well looked after lawn with no weeds, is to create a set in a plastic tray. And that's what I'm actually going to do and show you how to do it. And when you photograph it in that, the pictures are going to look perfectly natural. You won't know that they've been taken on a plastic tray on a lawn in a town garden. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to show you how to create a set to actually photograph the slowworm in. When you see the finished pictures, you won't know any difference at all, that it's been taken in. Basically all it is a plastic tray. Measures about 2.5 foot by something like about 1.5 foot. It's about 3 inches deep, so that's quite deep enough. It'll, you know, stop it sort of escaping too much, hopefully. What I've done is, in the garden we've got an old log pile. We try to attract insects. I've gone and got some old rustic sort of looking logs with a bit of moss on it and that sort of thing. So I can actually build a set here that will look as if it's say, you know, in a woodland or anything like that. I've been and got a load of moss, the reserve over the road from me, and what I can actually do is create a very natural looking picture in a plastic tray. And when you actually see the finished pictures, you aren't going to know any different as to, you know, that it's been taken in a woodland or been taken on a plastic tray like this. Don't curl up there. So now it's just sitting there quite nicely. So that allows me to get some fairly nice shots of it. Now, because it's completely stationary, what I'm actually going to do is actually do a shot where I'm going to focus stack it and just do that head. So here you can see I've taken the slowworm out and it's sat there as good as gold. It's not moving at all. It was nicely curled up. So that allows me to get some very, very nice footage and shots of it. I just want to point out that at no stage of the photography was the slowworm harmed in any way. And certainly it's been released into a much better location than when it was initially found. So I've come down to the reserve, nature reserve, that's quite near me. It's only about 5-10 minutes walk away. And to be honest, this is an ideal habitat to release it in. Certainly next, my sister-in-law's cat isn't going to get it here. You've got trees all around here, bushes, bramble bushes over there. So it'll be quite safe here. Brought it along in the tub. What I'll do is I'll take the lid off there, release it, and hopefully it should live a fairly long life. At no point when I was actually photographing it or anything like that was the slowworm harmed. You'll see when it goes away, it will slither away quite happily. It is important that the welfare of the subject, but certainly where it was in my sister-in-law's garden, if she'd released it back there, the cat would have only got it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.